Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Before we begin, let's take an opportunity, a moment to simply arrive into this space. Let's feel our feet on the ground. Let's soften our shoulders. Let the breath come in gently and let it go gently. Let's take a deep breath in together. Hold for a couple of seconds. And a gentle exhale, letting go of anything distracting us, anything we're holding over from this week. All week we carry things, responsibilities, worries, expectations. We build small altars to them in our minds. Things we think we must control. Things we believe we cannot live without. Our tradition tells a story this week of a people who became frightened and uncertain. And in that fear, they built a golden calf, something solid, something visible, something they could point to and say, this will guide us. But Shabbat invites us to a different kind of trust. So as we breathe in tonight, you might ask yourself, what am I holding on to too tightly this week? What golden calf of certainty, worry, or control can I sit down just for a moment? We don't have to solve anything tonight. We don't have to carry anything here this evening. Shabbat holds us. Let's take one more deep breath in and let it out. And together we enter into this sacred space. Ma yafeh hayom, how beautiful is this day.
Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
As we invite Shabbat into our space, we do so by lighting our Shabbat candles. It is my pleasure to invite up Deborah and Judy and Joyce to help us as we light our candles. And we wave 3 times, inviting that energy, that peace of Shabbat into our sanctuary, and we'll join together in the blessing. Baruch atah
Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvot, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner, lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabala. Come, my beloved, to greet the bride. Let us welcome the presence of Shabbat. In Jewish tradition, Shabbat arrives not as an idea, but a presence. This is something that we greet, something that we welcome. All week, we move through the world trying to make sense of things, trying to hold everything together. But when Shabbat comes, we don't master it, we greet it. Lecha dodi is less like a declaration and more like a turning away from the noise of the week, turning toward stillness, turning toward one another. Our mystics imagine the community physically turning to the door to welcome Shabbat, not because Shabbat is literally outside, but because sometimes the body needs to lead the heart. So when we sing these words, we practice that turning towards presence, turning towards sacred time, turning towards one another. And in that turning, we remember that holiness is not something we build alone, it's something that we welcome together. We'll join together in the words of Lecha Dodi on page 138 or page 20. We'll be singing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And on the 9th verse, I will invite us all to rise as we welcome Shabbat into our sanctuary.
Shabbat, Lecha Dodi, Lika
Let's turn around and welcome those who are joining us on the live stream. Let's wave to them and wish them a Shabbat Shalom. Turn to your neighbor, someone across the aisle, wish them a Shabbat Shalom. Let's start to make our way back to where we were seated, but don't sit down just yet. We're moving into the words of the Baruch Hu, which can be found on page 146 or page 28.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Adonai, Amevorach, Amevorach, Leolam Vaed. Amevorach, Amevorach, Leolam Vaed.
You may be seated. Let's all turn together on page 149 or page 31 and join together at the top. Praise to you, Adonai, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide, and your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. The Shema asks us to listen, not just to hear these words, but to listen deeply. In a world full of competing voices, news, demands, fears, expectations, the words of Shema bring us back to one essential truth, that there is a deeper unity beneath everything. Our mystics taught us that when we cover our eyes for the words of Shema, we're not shutting the world out. We're quieting distraction. We close our eyes so that we can hear more clearly. And in that moment, we remember that we are not alone, that the world is not chaos. Beneath everything, there is a deeper oneness, if we will but listen.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. We'll join together in our love song to the divine, the Ve'ahavta, on the following page. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'beitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Mi chamocha ba'ilim Adonai, who is like you among the mighty Adonai? These words recall the moment that our ancestors stood at the sea, caught between an unknown wilderness ahead and an empire behind them. The sea parted, but the journey did not end there. Freedom, it turns out, is not only a single moment. Freedom is a path. Sometimes that path leads through uncertainty. Sometimes it leads through fear. Sometimes it leads us to moments where we are tempted to turn back to what we once knew. And yet, the song at the sea reminds us of something powerful. The greatest miracles in our tradition do not eliminate uncertainty. They open the path through it. So as we sing the words of Mi Chamocha tonight, we remember that we too stand on shores of uncertainty in our own lives. And yet still we sing, because the song itself is an act of trust. We'll join together in the words of Mi Chamocha on page 158 or page 40. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat. The words of our song, Veshamru, actually come from our Torah portion this week, Parshat Ki Tisa. Before the story of the golden calf, the Torah pauses to remind the people of something essential. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat. The children of Israel shall keep Shabbat. As if the Torah is placing Shabbat at the heart of covenant before the turmoil of our story unfolds, before fear, before confusion, before all of the mistakes that the people will make. The Torah reminds us first, there is sacred time woven into the rhythm of our lives, and each week we return to it, and each week we remember who we are meant to be. So as we sing these words tonight, we're joining our voices with generations of Jews who have turned toward Shabbat as a reminder to pause, to breathe, and to come back to what is most sacred in our lives. We'll join together in singing Veshamru on page 162 or page 44.
Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam v'nil vein b'nei Yisrael od ki le'olam v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam u'b'yom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam.
I'm going to invite us all to please rise physically or spiritually as we prepare for the Amidah. The word Amidah means standing, but standing in prayer does not mean rigidity. It just means presence. So as we begin our prayer, let's take a moment to ground ourselves. Feel your feet connected to the earth beneath you. Let's all take a slow breath in and a gentle exhale. Again, a slow breath in and a gentle exhale. In the story of the golden calf, the people were afraid. Moses had been gone for a long time and the future felt uncertain. And in that uncertainty, they grasped for something immediate, something visible, something that would make them feel safe. It is easy to judge that moment, but if we are honest, we all know that feeling when the future feels unclear, when the path ahead disappears, when we too grasp for something that promises certainty. But the Amidah invites us to a different response. Instead of grasping, we pause. Instead of reacting, we just breathe. Instead of building something to calm our fear, we turn inward with prayer. So as we enter the Amidah, allow yourself to stand here just as you are, with all of your questions, with all of your uncertainties, with all of your hopes. Let's take one more deep breath in and a gentle exhale. And from this place of presence, we begin our silent prayer. We'll join together with the words of Adonai Svatai Tiftach on page 164 or page 46. Adonai Svatai Tiftach ufia gita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. I will invite you to use this opportunity to daven silently, using the words here from our tradition or the words that are on your heart. When you are finished with your prayer, you may be seated. I'm going to invite us all to please rise, physically or spiritually, as we take our Torah from the Ark. It is my pleasure to invite Errol Rubin, who will be helping lead Hakafa with us this evening. You're doing Hagba. We'll be on page 364 with the words Ki Mitzion, and then we'll turn the page to 366 for Baruch She Natan. We'll join together at the top of page 364. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai miYerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, B'kedushato, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadlu Adonai iti, Uromema Shemo Yachtav.
Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'tishtachavo Lecha Kodesho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'tishtachavo Lecha Kodesho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'tishtachavo Lecha Kodesho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'tishtachavo Lecha Kodesho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'tishtachavo Lecha Kodesho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'tishtachavo Lecha Kodesho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'tishtachavo Lecha Kodesho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'tishtachavo Lecha Kodesho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'tishtachavo Lecha Kodesho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'tishtachavo Lecha Kodesho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'tishtachavo Lecha Kodesho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'tishtachavo Lecha Kodesho. Ki Adonai Eloheinu Romamu Adonai Eloheinu V'chisakavu Lecha Kodasho Romamu Adonai Eloheinu V'chisakavu Lecha Kodasho.
Our Torah is at rest. You may be seated. It is my pleasure that we have Dan Binder up here to read Torah for us this evening for our Aliyah. And it is my pleasure to also call up Valerie Binder for our Aliyah. Valerie Batz Avraham Vesara La Aliyah HaTorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher B'Harbanu Mikol Ha'amim V'Natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
That was beautiful. That was really beautiful. Okay, hold on to that. Vayar ha'am ki voshesh Moshe laredet min ha'har. Vayikahel ha'am al Haron. Vayomru elav. Kum aselanu Elohim. Asher Yelchu lefanenu ki zeh Moshe ha'ish asher elanu me'eretz Mitzrayim lo yadanu mehayalo. Vayomer alehem Aharon parku nizmei hazahav asher ba'oznei neshechem B'neichem uvenoteichem vehaviyu elai. Vayitparku kol ha'am et nizmei hazahav asher ba'ozneichem vayaviyu el Aharon. Vayikach miadam vayatzar oto bacheret vayasimu egel masecha Vayomru Ele Elohecha Yisrael Asher Helucha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Vayar Aharon Vayiven Mizbeach Lifanav Vayikra Aharon V'yomar Chag Ladonai Machar Vayashkimu Mimocharat Vayalinu Olot Vayagishu Shalamim, Vayeshev Ha'am Lechol, Vishato, Vayakumu Litzachek.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'Haye Olam Nata B'Toheinu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So this week we encounter one of the most interesting and painful moments in our Torah portion, the story of the golden calf. The Israelites had only just left Egypt, and they have walked across the sea. They've stood at Sinai, and they've heard the voice of God, and Moses has gone up to receive the tablets of the covenant. And then the Torah tells us, when the people saw that Moses delayed in coming down from the mountain, the people gathered against Aaron and said, "Come, make us a god who shall go before us." 40 days. That's all it takes. 40 days of uncertainty, 40 days without leadership, 40 days of not knowing what comes next. And suddenly the people are asking for what they have already left behind. They ask for an idol, and Aaron gathers gold, melts it down, and forms the calf. And the people proclaim, "This is your God, O Israel, who has brought you out of the land of Egypt." It's a shocking scene. After everything they've experienced, how could they do this? Well, when we look more closely, something deeper is happening here. The golden calf is not simply about idolatry, it's about fear. It's about uncertainty. And it's about the powerful human pull to return to what we already know, even when what we know was not good for us. The Israelites have just left Egypt, and for generations, they lived with a system that controlled every part of their lives. Egypt was oppressive. Egypt was brutal. Egypt was the place of slavery. But Egypt was also familiar. They knew how that world worked. They knew what tomorrow looked like. Freedom, on the other hand, is disorienting. Freedom is open space. Freedom means not always knowing where you are going. And freedom means trusting that something new will emerge. And that can be terrifying. So when Moses does not return right away, the people panic. Their anxiety grows, their sense of direction disappears. And in that moment, they reach for something familiar. The golden calf likely resembled Egyptian religious imagery, bull gods associated with strength. In other words, the Israelites are not inventing something new, they're recreating something they already know. And so the calf becomes a symbol of a deep human instinct, that when the future feels uncertain, we often return to patterns of the past, even when those patterns are not healthy. And this is not just an ancient story, this is a profoundly human story. We see this pattern everywhere. When people leave difficult situations, they sometimes find themselves pulled back towards the same habits that once trapped them. Someone may leave a job that caused them stress and exhaustion only to recreate the same unhealthy work patterns somewhere else. Communities may step into moments of change and possibility, but when uncertainty appears, the temptation arises to return to older ways of doing things simply because they feel safer. Even on a personal level, many of us know this experience. When we try to grow spiritually, we take on new practices, we try to move toward a healthier way of living, but then anxiety appears and we feel the pull of the familiar. The habits we thought we had left behind suddenly feel comfortable again. And our Torah captures this dynamic perfectly. The Israelites were not rejecting God because they suddenly started believing something different. They're reacting to uncertainty. Moses had been gone for too long and they can't see what comes next. So they create something they can see, something they can touch, something that feels stable. There's a powerful psychological truth in this story. Human beings do not always return to the past because the past was good. We return because the past was known. And sometimes the known feels safer than the unknown, even when the unknown contains the possibility of something better. Leaving Egypt was necessary, but leaving Egypt did not immediately remove Egypt. from the hearts and the minds of the people. The journey out of slavery was physical, but the journey into freedom would take much longer. That's why the wilderness journey lasts 40 years. Our Torah is teaching us something important. Freedom here is not simply the absence of oppression. Freedom requires learning how to live differently, and that does take time. It takes patience. It takes trust. The golden calf story reminds us that spiritual growth often involves moments of discomfort, moments when we do not know exactly where we are going, moments when the path is not fully clear. And in those moments, that temptation to retreat into familiar patterns can be very strong. But our Torah asks us to resist that pull. Instead of building golden calves, we're invited to sit with uncertainty, to remain patient in the wilderness, and to trust that something deeper is unfolding even when we cannot yet see it. And perhaps one of the most hopeful parts of the story comes after the crisis, because the story does not end with the golden calf. The covenant is broken, the tablets are shattered, but the relationship between God and the people is not destroyed. Moses returns to the mountain, and the covenant is renewed, and new tablets are carved. In other words, our Torah acknowledges something very real about our human journeys. We will stumble. We will fall back into those old patterns sometime. We will have moments when fear overtakes us. But those moments are not the end of the story, because repair is always possible, because growth continues, and the journey forward remains open. So perhaps the question this parasha asks of us right now is, what are the golden calves we build when uncertainty enters our lives? What familiar patterns do we return to when we feel anxious or unsure? How might we learn to stay present in the wilderness instead? The Israelites stood at the edge of something entirely new. They had left Egypt, but they had not fully arrived at the freedom that was waiting for them. That journey required patience. It required trust. It required time. And it required learning how to live without returning to the idols of the past. That challenge was not only theirs, it is ours as well. Every generation must learn again what it means to walk through uncertainty without losing faith in the possibility of something better ahead. So may we have the courage to resist the golden calves of our own time. And may we learn to trust with patience the slow unfolding of transformation. And may all of us as a community continue walking forward together towards that freedom that still calls to us. Shabbat shalom, everyone. At this time, we call to mind all of those who are in need of healing. There are a number of folks for whom our community is praying. Their names here on the screen. Our community is praying for Barbara Bergman, Susan Brovler, Leslie Brown, Carolyn Burrell, Don Cable, Christina DeSuvic, Maggie Ingebretson, Barbara Esmond, Joel Esmond, Bill Fisherman, Sue Gupta, Nancy Halevi, Linda Rose Herman, Marcus Hyman, Judith Hyman, Mark Justin, Marcia Katz, Aidan Kozlovich, Lee Kurth, Mel Lang, Herbert Ladner, Stuart Libby, Nancy Lipset, Rebecca Magana, Gordon Matsuoka, Claudia Mendoza, Arjuan Meredith, Mitzi Mild, Nina Morgan, Stuart Novick, Paula Perry, Martha Randolph, Jennifer Reed, Bonnie Richmond, Wendy Robbins, Patricia Sarles, Stan Zatz, Arlene Siegel, Jeffrey Snyder, Noah Tobinkin, Mike Trask, Keith Turo, Butch Ogren, Gerald Umeda, Harriet Weissman, Robert Wolf, Cheryl Wolf, Ruth Yathabetz, and Kathy Zane. If you are praying for someone or someone's, I will invite you to please share their names with us now.
Beth Meyer.
And I'll add to that list my aunt, Cindy Cheryl. We'll join together in the words of Misha Berach, which can be found on page 371 or page 253.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha L'Avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Sending our refuah shlema to all of those names mentioned here, all of those names we hold in our heart. Amen. I'm going to invite us all to please rise again physically or spiritually as we return our Torah to the Ark. My pleasure to invite up Sam H. to come help us with Hagbah.
Zot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Torah, 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 timan lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 timan lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 timan lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 timan lanu Moshe. Etz Chaim hi lamachazikim bo v'somechecho meushor v'rochecho nachenoam v'chol nesivosecho shalom. Ashivenu Adonai Elecho v'noshuvo Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu kekedem.
You may be be seated unless you have some announcements for us.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I hear we have a busy evening, so Jess has asked me to go at 1.5 times speed, so I'll do my best. So just a couple of quick things. First, as always, we do have a Torah study tomorrow with Rabbi CJ at 9:30 a.m., both in person and online. And then because you can never have one holiday behind you enough before you start looking forward to the next one. So Passover, some things coming up. Tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m., Maura Jackie Lau will lead a Create Your Own Seder Plate Clay workshop. The registration for that is closed, but is a reminder for everybody who signed up that that's happening tomorrow afternoon. Then on Sunday, March 8th, we have several opportunities to prepare for Passover. A Malama workday with volunteer shifts in the morning and midday. And at 10 a.m., Rabbi CJ's adult learning class, Passover's Fourfold Journey, exploring how the number 4 shapes the Passover story and what it teaches us about freedom, identity, and growth. As I say that now, and there were 3 things, I realized I should try to add 4 because that seems wrong. But too late. Membership committee. We are still recruiting people for the membership committee. It's a great way to get involved with the temple community. It is meeting by Zoom the 4th Tuesday of each month. You can contact Alicia Fine for more information. As always, we are collecting food for the Hawaii Food Bank. If you can bring in food, that's great. But even better, if you are able to make a contribution, which you can do online, because of how they are able to buy food at wholesale, it goes further. $10 helps provide 21 meals. And then the last thing I'll note is to, of course, please join us for tonight's Oneg After Services, which is being sponsored by our own Deborah Wachowski in memory of Jean Henkin-Jones and Mike Wachowski. Thank you very much to Deb and the whole Wachowski family for that. And then finally, after the Oneg, please, of course, just try to clean up around you a little bit when you're done. It helps with the entire professional staff if we can get that taken care of a bit. And because our security does leave at 9, if we could try to keep a little bit of a 9 o'clock and see if we can wrap things up at about 8:45. Because we have a little bit of a busy evening, I'll forego any other jokes about golden calves and hoofing it out of here, and I'll turn it back over to Rabbi CJ.
I'll invite us all to please rise physically or spiritually for Aleinu, which can be found on page 586 or page 282. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, lateit gedula le'otzer b'reishit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated. At this point, we call to mind all of those who have passed recently and in seasons past. May God grant comfort to the loved ones of Morton Nemiroff, Millie Delgado, Phyllis Sodlin, and Jean Henkin-Jones. At this time, we are also remembering a number of yard sites as a community. Abraham Saul Cohen, Ann Goldstein, Anna R. Newman, Bernard H. Levinson, Charles Grossberg, Donald Thompson, Dorothy Bernstein, Dorothy Gottlieb, Dr. Norman H. Hinken, Elsa Ackerman, Esther Goodman, Eve Feltzer, Gertrude Nimroff, the Honorable Bernard H. Levinson, Ira Lichten, Johnny Nimad, Louis Sapiro, May Hinken, Myra Sadker, May Goodman, Paul Stoller, Rebecca Kotz, Rose Robin, Sadie Gorowitz, Salman Horish, Samuel Portner, Sarah Glickman Epstein, Seymour David Gottlieb, Sherman Rosen, William Orenstein, and Zalman Meir ben Moshe V'Halevi. If you are in a period of mourning, or if I happen to mispronounce the name of your loved one, I invite you to please share their names now. If it is your custom to rise for Mourner's Kaddish, I will invite you to do so. Mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 598 or page 294. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon u'vyomachon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam v'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitchadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'imramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen. Zichron al Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. I'm going to invite us, we're a pretty large crowd, so I don't know if we can maybe squeeze into the aisles or maybe make a circle around the outer edge. Let's join together as we sing our song of peace with the words of Oseh Shalom. Yeah, let's see. It might be better to go out on the outer side of the aisles. Maybe we can make one big, large circle.
Oseh Shalom bimroma, Hu yaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. Oseh Shalom bimroma, Hu yaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Oseh Shalom bimroma, Hu yaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen.
Josh noted, we want to say many thanks to Deborah Wachowski for sponsoring the Oneg in memory of Mike Wachowski, whose yard site it is tonight. So we are going to invite her to share a few words about Mike.
I'm going to let Craig talk,
Okay.
and I'll talk over the phone.
Good evening. A few minutes before services, we unveiled a plaque with my father's name on it on the memorial board over there. And it got me thinking, I first started sitting in these seats in 1970. And my sister and I would look at the names on the wall and wonder who those people were. And over time, as we continued to come here, we'd learn that was so-and-so's parents or grandparents or whatever, and we'd learn a little bit more about them. And as time passed, of course, memorial boards expanded as the names expanded. And it's just great to come back and see some of those folks and the memories of the folks whose names are up on the board. They were part of our community for many years and many generations. And then I was thinking, what would I want people to know about my dad? My dad was an amazing man, Air Force pilot, led the Jewish Federation, ran a division at the University of Hawaii. Could go on, and I've heard it's a busy evening this evening, so probably shouldn't do that. What I've found in the past year is saying over and over again, you know, my dad used to say this, or my dad used to say that. And the thing that comes to mind more often than not, that I would want someone sitting in these seats who looked at the lights next to his name to know, is he would say, every mistake I ever made seemed like a good idea at the time. So I'll leave you all with that. And hopefully your mistakes are minor, and they all seem like good ideas at the time. Thank you.
Now, Deborah sponsored the Oleg not only in memory of Mike Wachowski's yahrzeit, but also in memory of Jean Hankin-Jones, who passed this week. Now, I understand, Kinney, if you or your daughter would like to share some words.
Shabbat Shalom. Though I called Dr. Jean Hankin-Jones Auntie Jean, she was truly a surrogate grandma. Oh, I don't know about me. A steady, wise, and deeply loving presence in my life, many of ours here. As we honor her nearly 103 extraordinary years, I find myself reflecting not only on the magnitude of her accomplishments, but on the countless ways she touched and uplifted the people around her. She was a trailblazer long before the world was ready. Her work shaped how we understand nutrition and public health. She carried that passion for discovery well into her 90s. So the Auntie Jean I knew was not only the renowned scholar, but was someone who embraced joy with her whole heart. She celebrated her bat mitzvah at 75 and married the man of her dreams, the love of her life, at 86. She danced, she laughed, she served her community, including here at the Sisterhood, and she moved through the world with a curiosity that never faded. What made her extraordinary to me was her presence, warm, attentive, and endlessly encouraging. She had a rare gift for making you feel truly seen. And through her example, she taught me how to live with purpose and with heart, showed me that resilience and joy can grow side by side. Her legacy lives in her scholarship, yes, but even more so in the people she nurtured, those she inspired and believed in. I carry her with me always. May her memory be a blessing, and may we honor her by living with even a fraction of the courage, curiosity, and love, and laughter, lots of laughter that she brought to the world.
All right, let's join together in Kiddush.
Baruch atah
Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam,
אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצבנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים, כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים. לחיים. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Now, I know most of you expected me to make the golden calf, which I did last year and the year before and the year before, but since this was doing this in honor and memory of Mike, I thought I should do one of his favorite things, which was being a pilot. And so I made a plane. So I just want to say one thing. Mike, in fact, we're putting it on his gravestone, but he was always concerned about the future of the Jewish people, and having all of you young guys here, wherever you are, and women, and wherever, they're all around, would just make his heart so happy. So, join me in the Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon.
B'tei avon, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. We want to say Shabbat Shalom. We want to again say thank you so much to Deborah Wachowski for sponsoring our Oneg. Please join us in the back for Oneg, and I'll wish you all again a Shabbat Shalom.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל